welcome to the Flourishing Center podcast. I'm Amelia, your host and founder of the Flourishing Center. We are training the change agents of the world and equipping them with research-based tools for healthy, happy, and successful living, and we're so grateful that you're here. Each episode features 3 sections. First is the Science Says section, where we summarize a recent research study and show you how to put the science into action. Next, we give you a research-based life hack with simple strategies for incorporating positive psychology into your life for greater well-being. And then our Practitioner Corner is where we interview someone who's out there living, breathing, and spreading positive psychology in their own unique way. Learn about how they're growing their personal and professional work and get inspired with strategies for how you might use positive psychology in your own life. Thanks for listening, and let's dive in. In today's Science Says, learn about heart rate variability and this powerful measure of the body's resilience. Learn how to build your heart rate variability in our life hack. And for today's Practitioner Corner, meet Jillian, a young practitioner who followed her heart to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where she's now supporting the community and taking a positive psychology-based approach to trauma. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to today's Science Says. We're going to cover heart rate variability. And if you're not familiar with heart rate variability, it's a really fascinating measure. And in fact, it's one of the only measures that we have that tell us information about how well the body is doing, rather than just the absence of how ill or not well the body is. For example, when we get sick, your body gives you quantifiable measures that you are not well. You get a fever, your white blood cell counts go up. There are ways that your body can measurably tell you, hey buddy, something is up. On the other hand, when we are well, we don't necessarily have measures of high-level wellness. One of the measures, and one of the only measures that we have that tell us that the body is in tip-top shape, is actually something called heart rate variability. Heart rate variability has lots of different applications, but one of the big ones is that it was identified early on as a risk factor for all-cause mortality, meaning people who had an abnormal heart rate variability or low heart rate variability were at greater risk for a heart attack. Later, they found that not only was this measure a really good way of gauging whether or not a person would be at risk for dis-ease, heart rate variability gives us a measure of the vagal tone, or how well the vagus nerve of our body regulates our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system. And I'll go over all of those words in just a little bit. So this article was called Positive Affect and Parasympathetic Activity, Evidence for a Quadratic Relationship Between Feeling Safe and Content and Heart Rate Variability. It was published by Duarte Pinto Gouveia from the University of Coimbra in Portugal and published in the Journal of Psychiatry Research in 2017. In this research study, they tested the difference between positive affect and negative affect in various measures of heart rate variability. What they found is that, yes, while positive emotions in the past have been correlated with having high heart rate variability, there is a specific type of positive emotion that stood out as actually being correlated with what's called high-frequency heart rate variability. And that wasn't the type of happiness or elatedness or positive emotion that we might sometimes think of. It was a quiet type of positive emotion, an emotion that has to do with a sense of feeling warmth and contentment and feeling safe and feeling connected with people. The science suggests that positive feelings of warmth and contentment are associated with parasympathetic activity. Let's take a look at our autonomic nervous system and what some of the science means. The autonomic nervous system is one of the branches of the systems within our body. Autonomic refers to things that happened automatically or on their own. And within the autonomic nervous system, we have additional branches. One that's called the sympathetic nervous system, and a second that's called the parasympathetic system. Lately, researchers have started to identify a third branch of the autonomic nervous system called the enteric nervous system. That is actually our gut. And our gut health, meaning our stomach and our digestive organs, are actually being identified identified as a separate track within the body. That we will save for another future Science Says. But right now we're going to focus on the sympathetic and parasympathetic branch. The sympathetic nervous system is like the gas pedal of your body. It gets things to go. It activates your body by making your heart speed up, by making your pupils dilate, and by making the alveoli within your lungs also expand to take in more air. The parasympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, does the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system, and it acts like the brake of your body. So instead of getting things to go, it slows things down. It will cause your pupils to contract. It will slow your heart rate, and it will allow your lungs to relax. And the parasympathetic state is usually marked by this idea of calm, of relaxation, and positive connection to others. This is important because heart rate variability is a very important measure of health and well-being, and it is a measure that we can actually control. And this particular study suggests that one of the ways that we can increase our heart rate variability is by allowing ourselves not just to experience happiness or excitement or positive emotions in general. In particular, the invitation from this article suggests that maybe feeling content and feeling connected with others is one of the best ways that we can increase our heart rate variability. The author suggests an evolutionary explanation for how and why our heart rate variability can be so impacted by our sense of feeling safe and content with the world around us. In this article, the authors quote Porges' polyvagal theory. In this theory, Porges proposes that we mammals have developed a myelinated vagus nerve to enable us to engage with our environment, in particular with social interactions. And one of the ways that we benefit from these social interactions is it actually causes our heart to slow down when we are in peaceful, loving, connected opportunities with other people. The authors say that when the surrounding environment is seen as safe, the vagal regulation of the cardiac output slows the heart rate and encourages social behavior and homeostatic functions. Again, what this means is that they're proposing that one of the ways that our nervous system tells our body that it is safe, that the world is safe, is it enables our heart to slow down just a little bit and stimulates that vagus nerve or that brake response within our nervous system. So while this physiological state of having high heart rate variability is predictive of longevity, it is predictive of having a healthy nervous system where the gas pedal and the brake pedal work well with one another. Heart rate variability is a measure of the overall resilience of the body. And the authors state that vagal activity is positively associated with perceived social support, with positive emotions, feelings of connectedness during social interactions, having more supportive friends, and being engaged in activities where we're interacting with other people and sharing and receiving emotions. So this article offers us lots of great strategies of how to build this very important measure of health and well-being called heart rate variability. It suggests that in addition to trying to become happier with our lives, that we can also explore what does it mean to become more content and to feel a sense of trust, safety, and connection to those around us. And I don't know about you, but even as I say those words, they drop me into connecting with my heart and feeling in my heart a sense of connection to others. We can also do these things that they've also listed, such as connecting with other people, being around supportive others, engaging and sharing emotions with other people. All of this brings me back to the powerful statement made by Dr. Christopher Peterson, which is that other people matter. And this article further supports that as we're talking about some of the neuroscience and the biology behind health and wellness, that when it comes to our body's physiology, other people impact our heart.
Next up, we have life hacks.
Following today's Science Says, you might be curious, how else can I build my heart rate variability in addition to boosting my positive emotions and sense of contentment and safety? Well, prior to the most recent studies coming out about the role of emotions in heart rate variability, the most research was being conducted on breathing exercises and interventions and the impact that they made on heart rate variability. My favorite way for building heart rate variability without the use of fancy devices such as heart rate variability monitors or biofeedback equipment that gives you a very specific breath pattern, my absolute favorite and most simple way is to encourage others to breathe in a rate where they inhale for 5 and they exhale for 5. This lowers your breathing pattern to about 6 breaths per minute because you're completing a whole cycle of breathing within 10 seconds. So if we were to try that together, it would look like this. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that's a simple breathing exercise, and it's not necessarily for everyone. Some people might prefer an even slower breath of 5 breaths per minute. This might include inhaling for 6 and exhaling for 6, or inhaling for 5, holding for 1, exhaling for 5, and holding for 1. Regardless of the breathing pattern, you want to find a rhythm that feels slow but comfortable for your body. Our motto in Mind Body Medicine is slow and low. So explore what it's like to slow your breathing, bring consciousness to your breath, and see if you can slow your breathing pattern down a little bit from where it currently is, or maybe a lot of bit to getting to the position where you're breathing in for 5 breaths or 6 breaths per minute. When you bring your breathing into balance, meaning you're evening out your inhale and your exhale, you're bringing your nervous system into balance. The reason for that is that every inhale stimulates our sympathetic nervous system, and every exhale stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system. So when I bring both of those breaths into balance, I'm actually bringing my nervous system into balance. Unless I bring consciousness to my breathing, sometimes I will find that my inhale is way longer than my exhale, or that I'm breathing just from my mouth and from the shallow parts of my throat and my rib cage, not allowing the breath to go to the deeper centers of my belly and my diaphragm. So bring awareness into your breath. See if you can deepen your breath, and also see if you can bring your inhale and your exhale into balance just by counting your breaths, slowing your breath down. With this practice over time, you will build your heart rate variability and increase your health and well-being.
Next up, listen to Positive Psychology in Action with our Practitioner Corner.
Hello everyone, and join me today in welcoming Jillian Guinta. She is coming to us live from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She is a trauma recovery coach and teacher of therapeutic yoga. She's also a trained positive psychology practitioner from us here at the Flourishing Center. Welcome, Jillian. It is so great to have you here.
Amelia, it's great to be on with you today as well. Thanks so much.
So tell us, Jillian, what brought you to this work? What brought you to positive psychology?
Positive psychology, to be perfectly honest, was not on my radar. I was actually enrolled in a doctoral program when I found out about CAP. I found out actually on a date with a really nice guy who had gone through the program. And as he was describing the program to me, I'm going, oh man, that sounds so much more interesting than what I'm doing right now in grad school. And the tides in my life shifted, and the next semester, I opted not to enroll in my work, and I went ahead and registered for CAP. So it was really serendipitous to have met this person at all and then to have gone through the same program.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. I love that it must have just been a really great date conversation as well to be sharing insight about well-being. So tell us, what is your application of positive psychology look like?
So right now I'm using positive psychology in my work, I work one-on-one with clients that have gone through traumatic experiences. And then it informs my yoga as well, because traumas will often get locked in the body. And so to be able to coach someone through using some of the skills that we've learned together, such as habit change and things of that nature, have been really instrumental in helping these people make the changes in their lives as they start to come up for them at different points in their experience.
That's awesome. Tell us more about your background. Before you came to positive psychology, you were heavily involved in the fitness industry, right?
I was actually a personal trainer for many years. I actually have memories of being 10 years old at the grocery store with my mother and saying, I want to be a personal trainer when I grow up. And she goes, what's that? I'm like, I don't really know, but it looks like they have fun and they're in shape. So I got that start towards the end of my college experience at Rutgers University in New Jersey. I stayed with that for quite some time. I ended up switching careers in my early 20s. I went into a master's program for education and started to just parse through the different backgrounds that I was experiencing and kind of coming into my own, really unsure about where I wanted to be in the world. And it was about that time in my mid-20s where, God or spirit, the universe, whoever really upped my challenges. And I had some difficult issues, some traumas of my own that I had to work with. And I eventually found my way into yoga, then into a yoga program that was specifically for therapeutics, and we covered healing trauma. So I was able to then guinea pig these ideas and these different skills on myself and monitor my own healing. And then having gone through the CAP program gave me a lot more confidence to go out into the world. Prior to that, I hadn't done anything that would equip me with too many coaching skills. I had a sales background from personal training, and I had learned how to do motivational interviewing in my yoga trainings, but there was still a big disconnect in knowing the most appropriate ways to speak to clients that have gone through really troubling events. The positive psychology work really helped me to refine those skills that I wanted to have, but that I didn't have yet.
Beautiful, Jillian. Thank you so much for sharing that. And many of our listeners may not be familiar with some of the concepts because they're more research-based in positive psychology and traditional psychology. So can you tell us more about what is motivational interviewing?
So motivational interviewing is sitting with a client or someone who has yet to become a client and kind of sifting through the things that are pulling them forward and also the things that are holding them back. So for someone who's a prime candidate for motivational interviewing, they might be a little ambivalent to change. They're not quite comfortable where they are, but it's familiar and they're not sure if they want to go forward, often because they don't see the pathways. So through the process of motivational interviewing and coaching them and finding out what are the things that motivate them, what are the things that they're seeking, gauging their present level of commitment or willingness, you're able to then ask them different questions to help them see the pathways of how the change might be possible.
Thanks, Jillian. I'm so happy you pointed out the word ambivalent, because that's one of the things I feel like I've learned the most from using motivational interviewing for over a decade now, is that when people are not making a change, oftentimes they'll blame themselves. They'll think, oh, I'm not motivated enough, or they'll just feel stuck and they don't really know why they feel stuck. But recognizing that part of motivation is not just the fact that they want to do something or don't want to do something. It's that there might be something that is pulling them in two directions. Like, on the one hand, I want to start exercising, but when I exercise, my knee hurts more. And so I'm in this stuck place. Do I exercise or do I make my knee hurt? Or when it comes to people making changes to their body, you'll see things like, hiring a personal trainer has always been on their to-do list as like maybe the last possible thing that would work for them, because so many things haven't worked. And the fear that comes with trying the last thing that they haven't tried yet, and what if that doesn't work, is part of the reason that sometimes people don't start something, because there's this fear. So I think it's such an important thing for people to hear that motivational interviewing is this really great approach of asking questions and reflective listening that does help people get motivated. But some of the ways in which it gets people motivated is by working through that ambivalence that they might feel of being pulled in different directions.
Absolutely. It can get really challenging when you're about to make a big, scary change. There's always something that's going to be willing to pop up in your face and say, hey, this is going to scare the pants off of you. And then you need to see why it's there, what you need to learn from it, because ultimately we do want to change and grow and evolve. And I'm saying that as a blanket statement because I believe that to be true, but maybe we'd rather not have so many obstacles in the way.
Speaking of big, scary changes, you've made a lot of big, scary changes in your life. Tell us about some of them.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I actually just a couple days ago had my 6-month anniversary of being in a brand new city in a brand new state. I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I recently moved down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana in kind of a whimsical way. I was doing a lot of journaling at that point in my life. It was after a breakdown in my marriage that had gone from a very healthy relationship to a very unhealthy relationship. A lot of negative patterns had emerged in me, and it was time to lay that aside and work on myself and grow something new. So about a year after the separation from my husband, I was writing in my journal, just asking for guidance, saying, where do you want me to be? What am I supposed to be doing? Who am I supposed to be helping? And the next morning, I woke up and a newscast on about Baton Rouge. Then I hear my dad playing a song that mentions Baton Rouge, and we live right on the border of New York City. We're not listening to a lot of music that references Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And then I would see it different places. And so I took that as a nudge from my own intuition saying, go here, see what this place is like. I'd only visited Baton Rouge once, and it was totally boring. I actually said at the airport, oh, well, I'm never coming back here. See ya. And lo and behold, 1 year later, I was packing up my little white Elantra and grabbing the things that I thought I would need, which really just consisted at that time of clothing and books, and drove down the East Coast and cut across Georgia and eventually made it to Baton Rouge and made myself a little home here. So it's been 6 months. I arrived in March 2017. And since then, it's really been very divinely guided that I've been meeting the people that I was intended to meet, the ones that would help me in my journey. And I have had lots of positive interactions with people. It's quite different from where you and I are from, Amelia. It is a progressive city in the South, but it doesn't compare to the level of resources that we have in New York. They don't have many folks that are doing trauma recovery. They don't have anyone that's doing positive psychology. Even advanced teacher trainings for yoga are few and far between. A lot of yoga teachers would need to travel out of state to get some additional information and training. So it felt very much like an affirmation that I was in a place where I'm going to be used. And that's been a really exciting shift in my life. And what was really frightening for me was leaving this hometown where I grew up. And although I had traveled extensively, I hadn't lived anywhere else. But I kept coming back to the thought that if you're following your intuition, you're going to probably be fine. So here I am 6 months later with a brand new life.
I can't tell you, I'm like, I have chills, and I feel so positively choked up for you because I'm celebrating this vision I have that you listened to the call, you picked up the call, and that coming from a place in the New York, New Jersey region, we have a lot of need for so many things, but we do have a lot of people who have access to. You can find a yoga class, you can find someone who does trauma work, you can find positive psychology practitioners. And I almost get this sense that the hearts and the souls of these people who are ready to change, we're calling to you, and you picked up the call, and I celebrate that so much for you because you've got so many tools to offer them, so many skills, and most people are just not aware that these skills even exist. And when they get them, it's like drinking water when you're thirsty. such an honor.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. I'll be offering a training down here to yoga teachers, and I have some social workers showing up as well as psychologists. Yoga for Trauma. It's an 8-hour intensive in just a couple of weeks, and I'm really excited. They're really excited. I've been making sure that my science is on point so I can deliver it well. And lots of people are going to heal. I feel that deeply as a result of just sharing the information that we have access to.
Can you give me an example of some of the positive psychology that you find to be most helpful? So you talked about how you share the science of habit with some of the clients that you work with. What are some of the other positive psychology concepts and skills that you find really help people?
I actually got to run one of our positive psychology flourishing skills groups down here. And one thing that I noticed for me in my relationships was covering ACR, which is active constructive responding. That has been huge for me. It's something that my clients and my friends and acquaintances in my group were really excited about bringing into their personal lives, of celebrating the good things that happen in life without too much of a context for people needing praise, but just enjoying the things that happen. Because if we look at all these small details, there's a lot that we can celebrate. So the active constructive responding has been something really wonderful that we absolutely love down here. I have enjoyed doing the best possible future self with people, and reframing mind chatter has been really helpful for everybody. Everyone has that several voices in their heads, and they're telling us all different information. So we need to know what's coming up. If we don't fully realize what our mind chatter is, we can't work with it. It's the process of tuning in enough to become aware of the subconscious and then working with it consciously. So those are a couple of my favorites.
Wow, thank you, Jillian. And those of you listening, I'll just review some of the things that Jillian just said, because those are awesome positive psychology exercises and interventions. So active constructive responding was a research topic that was uncovered by Dr. Shelley Gable, and she recognized that we have a choice in how we can react to people's news when we hear from them, that people often react to people's bad news by going, oh my gosh, what happened? Tell me more. And we get very granular in our asking for details and our curiosity when negative things happen, when bad things happen. But when positive events happen, those of us who have people in our lives that just go, oh, that's great, congratulations, that sounds awesome, are responding in a positive way, but we can amplify that positivity by getting really curious and go, wow, tell me more, what enabled that? And she found that the number of people that an individual has in their life that would help them celebrate their positive news and savor with them and be happy with them, not just happy for them, but genuinely happy with them, is a greater predictor of their well-being. Whereas being silently supportive, or the ways in which sometimes the people in our life are well-meaning and they want to support us, but you tell them things like, guess what, Mom? I'm moving to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And they go, are you crazy? How are you going to leave your job? You don't know anyone down there. And they give you all the negatives before first hearing out, wow, what makes you want to go there? And what is it about that that's exciting to you? And what made you come to that? And what possibilities are there for you? And then being able to say, have you considered that you don't have a job there lined up for you and you don't actually know where you're living? So the idea behind active constructive responding is savor and celebrate first. And that's an awesome, awesome intervention. And the other two that Jillian mentioned, best possible selves, which I would imagine, Jillian, is really powerful for people who are recovering from trauma or have recovered from trauma. But just because you've recovered from trauma doesn't mean that you've built a vision of who's the person that you want to be. So best possible future self is about giving people the space to think about how they want to be in the world and write about it and visualize themselves at their best. What would it be like if I met my goals? What would it be like if I felt the way that I want to feel? And then the last one that Jillian mentioned, I totally forgot. What did you mention as your last one?
It was reframing mind chatter.
I have to reframe my mind chatter around how I'm going. What am I thinking? I can't remember what you just said. But I actually want to celebrate that moment for me, because before I learned positive psychology, Jillian, I would have been like, Amelia, you're an idiot. How did you just forget what she said just a few moments ago? But luckily, my brain didn't say that, and I had a permission to be human moment. So reframing mind chatter. Jillian, when you give people some examples, what are some of the ways that they can reframe their thoughts, or what type of thoughts should they be on the lookout for that are worth reframing?
So the ones that you're going to look out for the most, you can think of it almost like being at a picnic. If you have one little ant come by, not a big deal. But when a whole bunch of ants come by, that's kind of a big deal, especially in Louisiana, because we have red ants and they bite. And I found that out the hard way. So when you start to notice repetitive negative thoughts that are making blanket statements about you or blanket statements about the world that are saying you're a bad person or you're so irresponsible or whoever it happens to be, you reference memory. I have also gone through memory issues. It's very common for folks that have gone through traumas in their life to struggle with short-term memory. So something that might come up for them is like, you're so dumb, you can't remember anything, like you may as well be 100 years old. Not a helpful thought. That's not going to be something that helps you improve your memory. So a reframe around having a lackingness in your short-term memory might be, I struggle to remember, but it's something that I'm working on every day. Or I forget things frequently, and so I use my calendar to remind myself. Things like that takes something that could be a negative, maybe not always a negative, but could be a negative, and make it either neutral or a positive or something that's already being observed would be an appropriate reframe. We don't need to go from you're so dumb to you're the smartest person on earth. It needs to be a believable and helpful reframe. Another one that I have struggled with is you're so irresponsible. My you're so irresponsible, Jillian, then becomes you took a great risk and you are rebuilding parts of your life. That would be a neutralizing thought that counters this highly negative one of being an irresponsible person in the world. It's not true. So these couple of reframes and many, many other ones have been ones that I've used in my own personal life. They come up for my clients and for my students as well. And we'll continue to use them and we'll continue to reframe until we no longer need to, until we've either healed that area or have done enough of the healing that that's no longer our focus.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing those, Jillian. And it's so powerful to just remember that we can doubt our doubts and we can judge our judgments. And so many of us just walk around with our thoughts just going amok. And so thank you for those really specific ways that we could address our mind chatter. Jillian, I'm curious if you can close us off with any words to live by that you feel are your mottos in life or your guiding philosophies.
My guiding philosophy right now, this is such a great question. One thing I've been tinkering with and trying as often as possible to implement is an intervention for my own worry. And that intervention is just to say, don't worry about the how. Don't worry about how it's going to come. Get clear on what you want and start playing with ideas. Worry is not going to be something that's helpful unless it's a very short-term problem. But you can always look for pathways. So don't worry about the how. The how will happen if it's something that you truly desire.
Beautiful, Jillian. Thank you so much. And one more question. What does it mean in your heart and in your eyes for people to flourish?
In my heart, when I see and acknowledge people that are flourishing, they are taking it one day at a time. They are staying present to what's coming up for them. They're moving forward courageously and to the best of their ability. They're perhaps not always 100% happy 100% of the time because we are humans and we get to be participants in the whole range of human emotions, but these flourishing people that I see in the world are the ones that are staying present and engaging with whatever comes up and letting it wash right past them when it's over. So that's what flourishing is to me.
Thank you so much, Jillian. Jillian, how can people find out more information about you and your work in the world?
So if you're curious about me and you'd like to work with me or drop in on a workshop or come hear me speak, you can visit me online at www.jillianguinta.com. And you can also find me via email at jillianguinta@gmail.com. I write every single person that writes me, and I really hope to be connecting with lots and lots of you because you're my people, and it's really great to be part of the same community with these folks.
Thank you so much, Jillian. Learn more about Jillian's work at jillianguinta.com. That's JILLIANGUINTA.com. Curious how you too can create a career out of helping people thrive? Learn more about how to teach and spread positive psychology to your organizations and communities by visiting our website, www.theflourishingcenter.com. Thanks for listening, and until the next episode, may you be well, may you be happy, may you feel fulfilled.